So the big question is this: how can dyslexics like us create a place, a community, a tribe where people at any stage of life can come and solve any challenge, amplify their strengths, and ultimately help them become who they were meant to be, or in other words, conquer their dyslexia? That is the question, and this show is the answer. My name's Theo Goff, and welcome to the Conquering Dyslexia podcast. Hey guys, I hope we're doing alright, and today I want to talk to us about the sort of like the most common negative misconceptions people have about the dyslexia. I mean themselves. When I say that, I mean like the beliefs they have about. Cause like I said before, in the other training, on the other basically podcast, is that you can have beliefs, stories, or labels they put upon ourselves, and ultimately all these are a feeling of certainty about something, about ourselves, about how the world works. And that's all a belief is, that's all a label is, that's all a story we tell ourselves are. And oftentimes that can stop us. This story, this label, this belief can stop us living the quality of life, stop us really maximizing our dyslexia, stop us really doing what we want and doing well in work, doing well in life. So we have to understand the power and the weight of what we tell ourselves, of what we believe about ourselves. They control so much. Yeah, they control so much. And if you think about, like, for example, when like you get loads of dyslexic help, like for example, that's called the strategy of learning. And there's sort of like three things. If you look at a tier, this is what Tony Robbins says about a breakthrough, but it's about kind of like, it's about the quality of life in a sense. And there's like a three tiers to it. So what's least important to what's most important to really maximizing something. So what's least important is the strategy for doing something, the strategy of improving your English. Now, don't get me wrong, strategy is incredibly important. The strategies to help a dyslexic, the strategies to like compress times, the strategies to read, these are critical component, but they're not the only thing. And in this tier of list of what's important, this is the least most important thing, okay? And the second thing, so the first thing is the strategy. What's what most people focus on, but they don't do the other two things, and that's probably why they fail. Because, for example, with losing weight, is it so complex, the strategy of losing weight, that no one can figure it out? Only the select few can figure it out? No, that's not true. The strategy is so simple to figure it out. But why aren't everyone fit and healthy? It's because of the next two things I'm going to tell you about. So the second tier is about beliefs. The story we tell ourselves. The story we tell ourselves about why we haven't got what we want is so critical. It's what most people don't really look at, and what most people aren't really focused on. And these are like stories about, oh, I'm dyslexic, oh, I can't make friends, oh, I can't do it. And that's what we're going to talk about today. And then the third tier is state. The third tier is state, about basically stating is how you're feeling in this moment in time. Because how we feel in this moment in time, basically conditions what we're going to focus on, how we're going to act. Because like, for example, there's always times that we've been feeling absolutely amazing, on top of the moon, that we can do anything. And there's times we're feeling worse than that. But so where are you more on a consistent basis who's going to really dictate how your life? What's your habit of feeling? What's your habit of emotion you're going to be in that time? And that's how powerful state is. Now, state's the most powerful thing there is. And but today we're going to talk about the beliefs. The beliefs you have, all the stories and the labels, all these are the same things. And what I talk about, the top negative beliefs we have of dyslexia, okay? So, for example, loads of people believe my dyslexia stops me. My dyslexia stops me doing that thing. No, it doesn't. Like, people believe my dyslexia stops me. Well, if you really understand what dyslexia is, dyslexia's got a word that was made up over 130 years ago to describe why people are different. But to be 100% honest and 100% truthful, we have to really understand what dyslexia is. It's a word we made up to describe why people think differently and operate differently. That's all it is, and there's positives and there's negatives to this different way of processing and understanding and communicating. Okay, so that's what it is, and it doesn't stop you doing anything. Yes, some things can be harder, but it doesn't mean it stops you. Doesn't mean it physically stops you doing that. No, you may not know how to do it. You may not know the right way it is for you, but it doesn't physically stop you. It's not impossible for you to do that thing. It's not like gravity where you can't like turn off gravity. No, because like dyslexia, yes, you think differently, but it's not something that basically stops you doing something. It may slow you down, but you just have to work a way around it, find a different strategy to it, okay? So people in the world, like another belief, I've got a list of them here. Another belief is that people in the world discriminate against dyslexics. Well, when you say this, like people like discriminate against dyslexics. So discriminate against someone is like basically to know, like for example, to know someone and understand it, and basically say, oh, you're worse off because of that. I'm going to discriminate against you. Discriminate, for example, discriminate against colour. Discriminate against about different abilities and all this. And people say the whole world discriminate against me. That's rubbish, because honestly, a lot of these people are quite, they aren't horrible people. Like, for example, there's loads of racism. Like, if you go back 50 or so years ago, most people were racist. Most people were racist. And like more than that, the majority of people in certain places were racist. Now, does that mean every single one of those people were bad to their core because they acted in a horrible way? No, it just means how they were conditioned of what they understood. But once they understood, because there's this person with basically the Ku Klux Klan, this black person, who basically converted over a couple hundred Ku Klux Klan people to not being Ku Klux Klanners, and like actually like, do you mean understanding that the two people were different? And what he did, education was a massive part of it. And basically being friends with these people, it's an incredible story. But once you can fully educate someone, so it's not like just giving them the facts, it's they fully understand and take this information in, then they know. For example, if you just sort of like, if you had a spreadsheet and told someone all the gifts of dyslexia, a lot of people might go, oh well, you know what I mean, they still have these negative beliefs about it. The only reason why people would act differently towards you because you say you've got the word dyslexia, it's because they have basically an incorrect view on what it is. And guess what? Sometimes we might have an incorrect view of what it is. We might grow up saying dyslexia is a disability. Dyslexia stops you doing all these things. It limits you in your life. You won't be able to do all this stuff because you have dyslexia. That's not true. That's not true. And sometimes you've been uneducated in it. And I don't mean this in a hard, meaning way, pointing fingers. I just want it the way to really open yourself up and really change the way you're thinking about it. Change the way you think about, is it a disability? No, it's not a disability. It's not a disability. But oftentimes, if you don't understand it, if you don't use the right strategies on working on it, then negative stuff can happen. For example, like if we believe we can't read and write, and we believe we're dumb, we believe we have this weird thing called dyslexia, we start hanging around with different people who believe the same things as you. Believe that dumb, believe they can't do it, or like, you know what I mean, the people who don't care about school, who don't care about the system, and then hang out with those people and then getting to worse stuff in gangs and violence, and you know what I mean, then alcohol and drugs, all this stuff. And it does happen. If you look at the stats, it does happen. But really understand that like people, the world doesn't want to discriminate against you, because one of the big reasons is they don't understand. And I think part of like, if you really want to take it on, it's part of responsibility to educate people. You know what I mean? Because that's part of making the world a better place, isn't it? Like educating people about basically making people understand, look, what is dyslexia? What is this unique thing that you have that can be so valuable in a lot of circumstances, so we can work together? And all these great things, all the amazing people that have dyslexia. And another common belief that people have, I don't have any friends because I have dyslexia. I don't have any friends because of I have dyslexia. Now, I'm not going to go into the fact about I'm not going to go into, okay, exactly what is dyslexia and what is this other thing? What is this other definition of all these, like learning or whatever disabilities? What I'm going to talk about, like, let's say, like a lot of people think, like for myself, I have found it really hard in the past to make friends, and oftentimes it can be because of my dyslexia, or oftentimes be because of what experiences I've had due to my dyslexia. Because like growing up, same school, same people, not a lot of times to understand social interactions, and I still find it hard to have a conversation with multiple people at once. And yes, it may be, I do find things hard, maybe because of my dyslexia, maybe because I think differently. But it's not a reason why I don't have any friends. A lot of people find it hard to communicate or hard to be social, and not like, loads of people look at this, loads of people look at everything and say, oh, this person's so confident, this person's so confident. But actually sometimes you always put them on a pedestal and think, I'm never like that. But people may look at you that way. Oh, this person's so confident. And for example, these persons who you think are being confident don't feel that confident. You know what I mean? This is what I'm saying. And like, if you think you have the dyslexia doesn't stop you. It's just a matter like this person put in a group saying, I've never had friends because my dyslexia. Dyslexia stop you having friends. I said, no, it can't. I said, no, it can be harder to make friends because you have dyslexia. No doubt about that. But it doesn't stop you. It doesn't stop you making friends. What stops you making friends is you. What you have to start really doing is start understanding a bit more about yourself and doing more. What I gave is 2 basic instructions. First thing is push yourself. do something that scares you. Because the more thing it scares you, the more like if you do something that scares you, like, oh my god, I've done this thing. And once you do it a couple of times, you're not scared of it anymore, and you can move up that basically confidence ladder. And so you can find out, look, a new identity about yourself. So you can do things you never thought you would do. Because oftentimes what stops us is our identity about ourselves, okay? And then the second thing I told you to do is to basically get educated. There's a audiobook out there called How to Win Friends and Influence People. Now that's the best book ever on social communication, on how to be friends with people. It's so good. Another common misconception is dyslexia is a disability. Dyslexia is a disability. That's not true at all. Dyslexia is not a disability. People say, oh, dyslexia is a learning disability. It's not. It's not a specific learning disability. Because when the book is basically, they describe it here in the book, Overcoming Dyslexia, a big book. But what they talk about basically is a bit about it. But this woman basically campaigned in basically saying you should stop calling dyslexia a learning disability, because when you look at the definition of a learning disability and definition of dyslexia, they do not coincide. Because, for example, with dyslexia, you can improve upon the kind of like so-called deficits that we have of reading and writing. You can improve upon them and then make them almost unseeable. Once you improve upon them and create strategies to work around the problems and all this, to make them almost unseeable. And by that definition, it's not a learning disability. Because it doesn't impair you the whole life. It's just a different way of thinking. And I can't get into it a lot of detail because I don't know the terminology. But basically, if you look at the definition of a learning disability and dyslexia, they don't coincide. They're different things. Okay, they don't meet the criteria of a learning disability. Therefore, it shouldn't be called it. But some people still do. Okay? So, and like, for example, a big one is that I've tried loads of things in the past and it hasn't worked. And there's no help for me now. There's no help for people with dyslexia. No one cares about these people like, you mean for dyslexics. And there's not any help out there, or there's not enough help out there. That is a complete lie. You know it is. You know, say, oh, there's no help. You know that's a complete lie. Obviously, you wouldn't be watching this. I'm there helping you. So many other people out there helping you. There's loads of books, there's loads of things out there, podcasts to what's out there helping you. Two reasons why you might believe that. The first one is that you don't know. You popped in this video someplace, and you just start listening, and you don't know there's all this help out there because you just don't know. You haven't looked for it. There's one thing, you haven't looked for the help out there. Dyslexia, and just research it, and Facebook groups, and find people, and talk to people, and podcasts, and YouTube, and all these different avenues you can go down to find what the help is out there. But the reason that you don't know it's out there because you haven't looked. The second reason is a little bit sad, but unfortunately it's true. Oftentimes we have these problems, and then these problems can often become our identity, and then our identity is having problems. We have the help out there. The help is out there. We say we want help, but oftentimes we don't. Oftentimes, like I'm saying, this is for the small population, but it's true and it's sad that people have a set amount of needs they have to meet, and people meet those needs by needing help, by having an issue. And they meet those needs by having an issue. So they don't want to solve the issue because this issue is ultimately meeting their needs. You know what I mean? Like, for example, people will always complain about the time about how rubbish life is. And I know this could easily take this wrong and sound different, but for a small majority, there's a certain amount of people who create problems to have people to talk to have people to be social and all that stuff. And that's just, to be honest, that's type. There's no help. A dyslexia affects me only in English. Dyslexia doesn't affect you only in English. It doesn't. Dyslexia doesn't just affect you it affects you in the whole. If you have on the whole world, if you have dyslexia, you know that basically it affects you in everything in life. So basically, and also finally, dyslexia is a myth. Now, when you say about dyslexia is a myth, it's not a myth. Yes, you can say it's impossible to diagnose dyslexia because of this, and therefore it doesn't really exist. You can say that, look, it's a word to describe this, and it's got invented, it doesn't exist. But ultimately, this word describes a group of population who think differently. And yes, it's not perfect. It's not perfect. There's people out there that are dyslexic who aren't getting diagnosed because they don't meet the criteria of it. But dyslexia is a common way of thinking that's outside the norm. That has common things that you find hard and common things that you find easy. Okay? So that's what dyslexia is. I'm not going to go in detail about it. But anyway, finally, I want to basically tell you there's this little thing that you think about when, like, for example, they'll help us with our beliefs and help us really understanding them. So when you have like a negative experience, like people have really terrible experiences. I remember I went to this basically like an event, and this woman was on stage, and like she was like, anyone went through a traumatic experience, just tell me about to heal something or whatever. This woman put her hand up and said that she had a very, very, very awful experience now, a very awful experience that loads of people are scarred for life, and she hadn't told anyone for years and years and years and years and years. You can probably guess what I'm talking about here, but she said, look, I don't really tell anyone about this. You're like the first people I've told about this, but it's really hurting me and it's having all these issues. And what this basically trainer did, and it was incredible, really simple strategy, and she went over and over and over again, and it transformed this woman's life. So all she was done 2 circles, and one circle was see reality, and the other circle was see meaning. It's like, what happened? And she said, oh, well, this happened, and it was horrible, it was disgusting, and all this stuff. And she was like, no, that's not what happened, that's the meaning. Horrible and disgusting were words we used to describe, but what happened? Oh, it happens like this, it was awful, these things happened. No, these are meaning. What happened? And then she didn't go in detail, but she just described it physically. Like she just said, oh, well, this and this and this happened. Without any emphasis, without any basically metaphors of, basically could always use words like, he stabbed me in the back, this day is absolutely dreadful, it's awful. Well, these are the words we're using to describe it. These are often like meanings, things that, because the words we use dictate how we feel, not just the facts of what happened and the facts of how things mean. And for example, we always have an experience to say that we have these beliefs, don't we? An experience to say that we have these beliefs. But the meaning, because like we have experience, say, oh yeah, I have an experience, that's why I've got negative beliefs. Someone told me something, I had a negative experience, that's why I've got this negative belief. But if you look at this bad experience you've had, and you break it down into, okay, the meaning and what actually happened. The meaning and what actually happened. And if you really break it down, you realise, oh, it's just this and this and this happened. And this is the meaning, and the meaning is made up. Human beings make up meanings. We're meaning-making machines. Just understand the two. Alright guys, take care. I hope you really understood this and got a lot of value from it. And I know this is maybe a bit rushed, but I really feel it's important just to say this message out there and really keep consistent. Alright guys, take care, farewell, and